25 years ago, I learned that hospitals were poisoning the very communities they were serving, contributing to the very diseases that they were trying to solve for because of burning medical waste, toxic plastics in incinerators, breaking millions of mercury thermometers that were getting into the water and getting into the fish and getting into our bodies. And I said, what hope do we have to create a sustainable planet and communities if the very sector of our society that has healing as its mission is itself part of the problem, is itself contributing to disease and environmental destruction? So I and my colleagues created Healthcare Without Harm to heal the healthcare sector, to help them address environmental health. And now we've built an environmental health network all around the world of healthcare institutions that recognizing that you cannot have healthy people on a sick planet. And we're working with them to kick their addiction to fossil fuels and toxic chemicals, to create an economy that is based on the principle of first do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath. And we're building a movement inside of healthcare of doctors and nurses and community health workers who are raising their voices and defending the rights of our children to have clean air and clean water and healthy environments in which to thrive. We have traveled a long way together on the road to social change, and we've deepened our understanding along the way. I remember the first time I heard about the myth of the social entrepreneur. It was of the lone individual who, against all odds, climbed mountain upon mountain to heal a piece of the world. In 2006, I got an award from the Skoll Foundation, and when I went on stage to get my plaque, on one side of me was Robert Redford, and on the other side of me was Ben Kingsley, the Sundance Kid and Gandhi. I was just a little guy from New Jersey. I felt an enormous amount of pressure. As it turns out, we learned that it wasn't just the lone individual, but those people were part of organizations. They had built organizations. So we said, okay, we need to scale organizations. And so we did. And then we realized that organizations aren't enough. We need to create networks. We need to create ecosystems of all these different actors working toward a common goal. Over time, we realized we needed to build movements across continents to take on the challenges that we saw needed to happen around the world. Along the way, we brought many, many more people into our compelling vision. We created shining examples all over the world where women and girls were being educated, where farmers were reclaiming the land from chemical poisoning, where forests and rivers were being defended as sacred living things, where companies were bringing sustainability into their DNA, where the great turning toward wind and solar was happening. We realized that if we could transform 1 acre of farming, we could transform 100,000 acres. If we were working in 1 country, we could work in 5 countries. If we were in 2 continents, we could work in 3 continents, 5 continents, 2 planets, 3 solar systems. Scale up, scale up. And in that ambition to scale, often we forgot about ourselves. We forgot to take care of ourselves, and many people burned out along the way. As we continued to learn from each other, we realized that we could start to weave together this vision for the future of the earth, a powerful dream for the earth where the needs of everyone on the planet could be met with healthy food and safe housing and freedom from violence, education, access to health care, a healthy climate, democratic norms for representative democracy. And we wove all of those together into this beautiful dream of the earth called the Sustainable Development Goals. We haven't been afraid to dream big. We've needed to. And we've also understood that art and music and dance and poetry are essential ingredients to celebrate our kinship with each other and with all beings. And we've realized that time is no longer linear. It has sped up. It has sped up as our technologies have sped up. 20 years ago, we thought we still have time to address the climate crisis. We still have time to undo the violence against women and girls around the world. We still have time to change the business models of companies. And what we've seen is that all of those distant threats that we saw on the horizon have come crashing down into this interlocking set of crises that now face us all. COVID, deforestation, food insecurity, drought, refugees, fascism rising, endemic racism, and climate change exacerbating all of those other problems. We no longer have the luxury of time to create the world that we dreamed about. We need to do it now. We need to change the very mission of business to serve humanity, and not humanity to serve business. We need to create an economy that creates community health and community wealth and climate resilience. We need to create an economy that doesn't externalize harm to people or planet, that doesn't make people expendable. And we've also realized that we need to defend our democracies wherever we've been able to build them fiercely, because there are dark forces gathering through the web, through dark money and massive misinformation campaigns. And we need to strengthen our own web of connections in order to fend off the most violent aspects of human civilization. What is the hero or heroine's journey at this exquisite moment of crisis? It means being conscious of the cataclysm that we stand on the precipice of. It means holding that collective trauma and still acting from a place of hope, solidarity, and collective healing. It means finding the deepest well springs of our inspiration, our creativity, our soul force. It means centering ourselves with contemplative practices so we can hold the ocean of suffering that we bear witness to. And it means creating a community of fellow travelers around the world, all of us on the road to learn about ourselves and how to make peace with ourselves and our families and our communities and the planet. I grew up as a Jewish boy in the first generation after the Holocaust. The mantra in my community was, remember, never forget that this happened, and never let it happen again. Never let people being made expendable at the altar of nationalism or racism or any other ideology. I was truly traumatized by what I learned about what happened to Jews in World War II. I not only carried in my psyche, I carried in my cells. Our bodies keep the score, as it does for all trauma. And over time, I realized that people all over the world are experiencing their own personal, community, national traumas, whether that be Black people and indigenous people in the United States facing 400 years of oppression and genocide, or people in Haiti, or people in Rwanda, or people in the Congo, or people in Ukraine. All over the world, we're all dealing with intergenerational trauma. As I grew up and I got involved in the environmental justice and health movement, I had a chance to visit Bhopal, India, the scene where a Union Carbide pesticide factory exploded in one night, killing thousands of people as they slept in their beds and injuring 500,000 others. 37 years later, that factory has still not been cleaned up. Children born from those exposed, they also suffer health impacts. Union Carbide was sold to Dow Chemical. They claim no responsibility for any of it. Expendable people. I also had a chance to visit an area of my country in Louisiana called Cancer Alley, where every day 100 different factories poison African American communities up and down the Mississippi River Delta. It's a national sacrifice zone for the fossil fuel and petrochemical industry. Expendable people. And I had a chance to visit Auschwitz in Poland, the ground zero for my culture's collective trauma, where 2 million people were gassed and incinerated and starved to death in that living nightmare. And I learned something there that brought that collective trauma and my life's work into searing alignment. Because as those starving prisoners were marched out of that concentration camp every day, while the prison band played under a sign that said, "Work makes you free," they were being marched down the road to build a petrochemical factory. So not only did the chemical companies benefit from providing the toxic gases that killed millions of people, but they also employed slave labor to build their factory. What kind of corporate culture finds that acceptable, finds that permissible? It's the same corporate culture that has lied for 30 years about the climate crisis, to deny it, to delay action, so they could continue to drill for oil and frack for gas and dig for more coal. We've lost so much time in that period, so that now the World Health Organization reports that 9 out of 10 people on the earth are breathing air that is not healthy for them. And UNICEF reports that over 1 billion children's lives are at risk in this lifetime because of the cascading climate crisis. We need to resist this culture of inhumanity that even today are bombing even Ukrainian cities and their hospitals so that there's nowhere for people to go to get help. The difference between the chemical companies during World War II and the fossil fuel industry now is during that time, genocide and Holocaust were acceptable, were permissible. But in the business model of fossil fuel industries, Holocaust is necessary to continue to what they're doing. I admit to being frightened by the news from around the world. I know my daughter is growing up in a world that's far more dangerous than I experienced growing up. But I am so lifted up by the movement that is growing around the world of people who are realizing this dream of the earth, who are healing the wounds of centuries, who are building the greatest movement that the world has ever seen. I will end with my favorite poem by Wendell Berry, a farmer in Kentucky who reminds us of the power of nature as part of our healing mission to ourselves. When despair grows in me, and I wake at night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lay down where the wood drake rests on the water in his beauty, and the great heron feeds. I come into the presence of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.